On the Motor Mile, get more with straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Over 900 vehicles on the lot ready to choose from. The used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
To their ever-loving credit, the Liberty Lady Flames, they never flinched. They had so many chances against Texas A&M this past weekend in that series to flinch, to let adversity hit them, anything that might have popped up and derailed their chances. But they got their Melissa McCarthy on.
Will not be deterred.
One of the all-time great moments. But Liberty, to their credit, they were not deterred.
Will not be deterred.
And one of the things that I keep going back to in my mind, not that we keep going back to because we haven't brought this up in the fast lane, but Rachel Roop afterwards, and she's been front and center along with Elena Escobar, Savannah Jesse, among others, KK Madry. There are a lot of them that have been front and center for this Liberty team. And Dr. Dot Richardson mentioned that the celebration when they initially beat Texas A&M was because they had 8 girls that had been on multiple teams, which had experienced heartbreak, and now all of a sudden they bust through. But this is probably the most telling thing about the Liberty Lady Flames victory against Texas A&M. And, we'll get into, again, later in the week, we'll unpack the Oregon series more. But the concept of just being present in the moment.
Just the feeling of being so present. Like, I think that was the most present I've played in all 4 years being here, and just the confidence that was in me, like, that just came from the Lord and my teammates and just playing for each other, and just, I don't know, like, the ball looked like a beach ball, and what a great day for it to do that. So
that was Rachel Roop, and she's described her home run against Texas A&M, but more specifically, what stands out about that is the concept of being present. There were so many chances for this Lady Flames team to unravel. And a lot of credit we've heaped upon Dr. Dot Richardson and how she's built the program and how she's identified girls that are bigger picture girls and align with the school's values, stated values and mission. And I get it. We can point to examples where
OKGs are kind of gals instead of guys.
Yeah. Trey, my man, fist bump. For those that are watching, that's what we're doing, is a fist bump from my hands to Trey on Fastlane, Ed Lane, and VTRN Sports, Facebook Live and YouTube. But it is. I mean, for Liberty and any culture in sports, our kind of girls, our kind of gals. I'm not going to go down the whole, what people identify as, although, like I've said before in the fast lane, when I go to certain places and the men's room is busy and the women's room is open, I may change my gender identity for 2 minutes to make sure I have a chance to go in and relieve myself.
As long as there's a single, you're okay.
It is. And I try to, clean up after
I
myself.
think, honestly, we don't need to get political, but I think if I opened a store or a restaurant, instead of stalls, I'm just building single rooms because I feel like, one, it'd be easier to clean, and two, it would just get rid of the awkwardness because you can just go to the
gender neutral bathrooms.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bathroom.
Well,
as long as it's a single stall, you're fine.
Trey, since again, and I know we're taking a detour, but please forgive us. Not that sound effect yet. When you're talking about that situation, I would like to say that I may be qualified to figure out what a woman's bathroom and a man's bathroom looks like, because when you're out in sales and you're just in businesses all the time and you drink a lot of water like I do, you can put 2 and 2 together of what happens. So you often have to use different facilities. And like we've said, desperate times call for desperate measures. And I guess I have to ask for forgiveness.
Forgiveness is more than saying sorry.
And I'm not really sorry for going into the ladies' room when the men's room is full. Again, desperate times for desperate measures. Try to clean up after myself. But I would say on the whole, women's restrooms in public are much cleaner than men's. So if you go gender neutral, ladies lose, men win in that regard. Just saying. Again, for what my expertise might be worth. But as we get back into the fast lane, and I know we took a detour and forgot to play the sound effect for that one, but the Liberty Lady Flames staying present in the moment themselves. Like, that's an underrated element. And it does show that when you have a more experienced team, which they definitely have, it's easier to do that. But there are a couple things about that stand out. One of which is Dr. Dot Richardson is not afraid to, I know they don't technically have the challenge flag, but throw the challenge flag, to use a football analogy. She's clearly not afraid of it. And there were some calls where, like the interference rule at the end of the 6th game, the loss to Texas A&M Sunday afternoon, where, again, I'm not the most well-versed, but to me, it didn't look like there was any base path obstruction. And the more egregious offense was the Texas A&M runner running like 3 feet outside of the baseline, which should have constituted an automatic out. Although we know Liberty would not actually say that. That may have been what they were thinking, as Kenny Powers would have said. So Liberty right now is in that spot. And having players that can be present is big, because I'm all for taking a moment to let it go. Let out your frustration. But I think it compensated for the fact that Dr. Dot Richardson was clearly steamed about some of those bad calls. And again, to Dr. Dot Richardson, she got her usher on and said so about what she was feeling after game 1 and needing a mental reset.
Well, I'm a competitor. I was not happy. There was a call, didn't go our way at home. We would have won that game. So, I was furious, but I was proud also because the team didn't give up and kept going forward. And so I had to get it out a little bit. I let them gather amongst themselves. And then when I went there, I said, you know what this shows? You just scored 11 runs against the number 1 team in the country. We beat them yesterday, and it shows you can beat anybody. So now's the time. Let's finish strong. And the team did.
No doubt they did. But a lot of the testament should go to the players as well. And we've heaped praise on Dr. Dot Richardson, OKGs. She's identified them. She's done a fantastic job of that. But some of that's also understanding where you may have a weak spot. And if you have grounded players, then when your competitiveness comes out a little bit more than maybe it should, and let's be real, we can point that out about Dr. Dot Richardson, that sometimes that competitiveness maybe comes out to the detriment. She inspires belief amongst her team, so you take the bad with the good if you're a Liberty fan. But a lot of challenges, sometimes, watching it, both games Sunday, scratching my head with that. And having the right players that can stay grounded and keep the team focused, that's not easy, because sometimes the players lose focus in that particular moment, and it becomes a real big situation. But to Rachel Roop's credit, she and her teammates deserve credit, because there are a number of instances, but they were grounded, present in the moment, and they never flinched.
I think there were multiple times this weekend just against Texas A&M in general where we were down and we were to come back, put a lot of runs up. And so that kind of carried it. We were like, okay, we're down 3-0, but we've been down 4 and we've been down 5. We kind of used that momentum and just kind of didn't press. We were like, just let it happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to. So that's all we had to think about.
Being process-oriented is not fun for people. Certainly, as a Sixers fan, it's especially not fun because that thing didn't work. But just generally speaking, it doesn't mean you get to celebrate the big goal whenever you get it. It's what the benefit of is it helps you stay grounded in the moment. And the Liberty Lady Flames deserve that credit for just staying grounded in the moment in softball. And the best teams do that. When UVA men's lacrosse was winning national championships, those back-to-backs in 19 and 21, technically, I guess 3 years because they never had a season for a championship in COVID with 2020, but they are Virginia men's basketball at their height, or the great years for Virginia Tech softball or women's basketball. One of the common threads is mature players who fit the culture, but also know how to stay grounded in the moment and balance that level of competitiveness. Because you live by the sword and die by the sword when you get that emotional. LSU women's basketball, maybe one of the best examples. They live by the sword and die by the sword of Kim Mulkey and her emotions, being bombastic and all over the place. When it's great and it's firing with players, that personality, especially down in Cajun country, sells really well. But there are also times where you go, is that the best approach for long-term sustained success? I wouldn't say it's not, because she's had great success, but it's harder to sustain that over a period of time. I think Dr. Dot Richardson, again, this is where we'll give her some praise, deserves credit for towing the line. She's competitive. It goes overboard, but it doesn't look like the Kim Mulkey overboard. I wouldn't put her in the Dawn Staley classification, where Staley kind of like Gino Auriemma in women's basketball, and they're more mainstream women's sports examples, which is why we're using them. But they're really gifted at being grounded in the moment. And everyone's probably seen Duke women's basketball coach Carol Lawson. She's kind of the example of that, but we're talking about like exceeding at this high level, championship caliber level. There are different approaches with which to do it. But a lot of the sustained success goes beyond doing that and having that. And when you understand how to not press panic, stay grounded in the moment, it's great. But I don't think it's a bad thing either to have that level of spark, that level of emotion when channeled the right way. Because to Dr. Dot Richardson's credit, this goes back to what Trey mentioned at the beginning of this segment here in the Fast Lane. But OKGs are kind of guys is what it normally is, but we're going to flip it to our kind of gals if you're talking Liberty softball. And that is having players that relish that underdog mentality, which means locking in, always having to be focused because you can't take your eye off because you're talented, but you have a little bit of a chip and maybe a little bit missing from your competitors, knowing that your edge is being locked in.
But you guys, it's so fun. When you see competition like this, it's just so fun to be a part of. And that's why people love to watch fast pitch softball. You know, it's so good. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But boy, when you give it your best, you know, you win. And so this time, you know, we were able to put the rock in the sling and, you know, just make it at least one run more. But it was great competition.
You know, and some of that, again, it's OKGs, finding people that like that underdog mentality and thrive on it. And this is, again, we mentioned Dr. Dot Richardson, the competitiveness sometimes needing to be channeled the right way. And we pointed out some critical flaws earlier in the Fast Lane. And if you want to go back and check it out, you can. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook Live, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Because
and guess what? We keep receipts.
But for that being brought up, I would look at the example of Caitlin Yoder. You pull Elena Escobar, who was just gassed. I mean, the arm's literally like, you know, falling off. She's dealing with the Achilles injury that she battled through and had thrown over 400 pitches on the weekend. And you go to Caitlin Yoder and you combine that with the catcher and Savannah Jessie and other great players around her that can keep her grounded. It goes back to that point of the right mixture and the right balance.
To come in like she did, Texas A&M hadn't seen her. She's a Gatorade Player of the Year out of the state of Delaware. And for her to come in and fire like she did, you guys know she's hitting 68, if not even 69, that, boy, she also was locked in and we needed that, and she was able to do it.
And Caitlin Yoder was, but Liberty is a team. They were. It was the right level of balance of competitiveness, fire, willing to scrap, not being intimidated by the environment and the team at Texas A&M because both were really strong, and all those pieces mixed together really well to make a really epic weekend. Now, there could be an epic weekend in your future this coming weekend, because if you join us at the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the Type 1 Diabetes Experience, you'll be making a difference. You can volunteer, show up race day, or message us, Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we'll help get you connected for that. Of course, you can visit tide.org, T1DE.org to sign up for an event that does so much for our community, which is why Easy Mobility Solutions, they're proud to be a partner of that because they help people with mobility challenges every day, and they understand the value of having great health. And of course, Lynchburg Ready Mix, they have been impacted directly by type 1 diabetes and the challenges it can face. And Lynchburg Ready Mix, a proud supporter of this event as well, because they also understand that people that are in need benefit so greatly from having the right kind of resources around. Had a great feature that we dropped the other day at Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram from Whitney O'Brien, whose son a few years ago was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and what it means to have the community like type 1 diabetes experience and to have the resources they provide for a parent in need. So all worth checking out, including the event this coming weekend. Now to other topics in the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast 5 at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
4 is the number we will get to in a moment because 4 people have been inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So we're going to keep it symmetrical, numerically speaking, in just a moment. But the NFL's proposal, not for the Tush Push ban, more on that surely tomorrow in the morning warm-up and probably in the fast lane as well, but the NFL's proposal to allow players to play in Olympic flag football in the 2028 Olympics in LA passed 32-0, according to the team sources. This is the example of when you don't have a union, what might pop up and be a real issue when it comes to the NFL. Because the coaches are the ones that would not like this, and management often would not. Although in some cases, the manager and the owner are the same thing, just like
It's looking a little bit like those Dallas Cowboys is peaking in the 90s.
as Jerry Jones holds both roles. But when you're talking ownership, they see bigger picture beyond just the potential for injuries. They see
Dollar bills, y'all.
over a long period of time by introducing flag football, by the fact that it brings in new fans, by the fact that it's the avenue to get women engaged with football on a much different level. All of those are true factors, and all of them are noble causes. We know money is the number one in the NFL. Let's not kid ourselves. But allowing flag football to be part of the Olympics, it was going to pass because the owners don't need to be convinced about the safety or the challenges that go along with it. As long as they see the path to having more
Dollar bills, y'all.
they will let people know that they have
Lots of power
and they will
will not be deterred.
in their mission to get something like this passed. Meanwhile,
Number 4.
and we put it at number 4 because there are 4 contributors who have been inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Ricky Hendrick, 20 wins at Martinsville. He's a Richmond native from Trey's backyard, so I'm sure. a point
No
of
relation
pride-
to Rick Hendrick, the car owner.
Correct. That is very
Same
important.
name, but different. But it's Michael Massey's guy. Let's just put it that way.
Massey loves this guy. He'll explain more Thursday in the Fast Lane.
Hint, hint, he may or may not have gone 3 for 3 on his Hall of Fame article for frontstretch.com with these 3 picks.
Yes, he did, because Harry Gant was the Skull Bandit. And when you're talking about wins and accolades, he's not up there. But, I mean, look, Dale Jr. is a Hall of Famer, and he was not the most winning driver when it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series either. But clearly what he's done profile-wise, and I actually think you can make a case Dale Jr. might be worthy of a second level of recognition. More on this in a moment, because the Landmark Award was given out today, and I think Dale Jr. already has a compelling case for what he's done for NASCAR, for like North Wilkesboro, for other tracks, for keeping the popularity going and boosting it. I think he already is worthy of it.
But I don't think that goes to Hall of Famers. So this is like
You can't get inducted twice, basically.
yeah, this is the I think this is the like for the people that can't be a like Hall of Fame person. This is another way to get it. It's similar to like the media awards they have in the NFL. I know like Merrill Reese recently got it. I don't know if it's the last Hall of Fame or the Hall of Fame before that. I know like Inside the NBA is in the Basketball Hall of Fame for a very similar thing. So it's I think of that ilk.
And that is a great point, Trey. I'm just saying, I think Dale Jr. has done so much outside of NASCAR that his greatest contributions are what he's done for the sport on a much broader level than just as a driver, although he held the mantle of being Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s son after the tragic passing of the GOAT, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and the way he handled it, I think there was actually a lot of maturing that happened behind the scenes that he wasn't necessarily fully able to handle it, but he never backed down from it. And as he has grown, married, kids, expanded his business ventures, we've seen the contributions just multiply for Dale Jr. But Humpy Wheeler's the one who got the Landmark Award for NASCAR. He's the one who introduced the concept of the All-Star race.
Charlotte Motor
He
Speedway.
transferred Charlotte Motor Speedway into the top-tier facility and really was on the cutting edge of the idea of fame amenities, making facilities more modern. The things that you enjoy now at a place like Martinsville or Richmond or Darlington were largely brought in by Humpy Wheeler, pushing that issue for the fan experience. And somebody has to do that, because at the time it was ISE, which is basically a subsidiary of NASCAR. Now it's just one and the same. But a lot of these organizations did not think of that. Humpy Wheeler saw the vision for it, enhanced the experience. It put pressure on other tracks to get up to speed and deserves the credit for it. And the last one, but certainly not least, out of the 4 Hall of Famers in NASCAR, and that's why we're stuck on number 4 in the Fast 5 at 5-ish, but it's Kurt Busch, who, what he was able to do to win with multiple teams, he maximized his equipment. He had such an ability. And I'd say in particular, Roush was great, winning a championship. He's worthy of it just on that alone. But winning at places like Ganassi Racing when they were starting to sputter, or helping 2311 Racing get off the ground in their early years because of the stability, the
He
knowledge.
made every team better. I think
He
it's a
did.
simple way to put
He
it.
did, for all of his immaturity, both towards the media, towards fans, towards other drivers, and really coming across as petulant and immature. I'd say if there's one thing about Kurt Busch that stands out is from and I'm not talking about the personal side of things, but as a driver, he elevated his teams multiple times through his knowledge, through his skill, and his willingness to be a mentor. That was really something that is worthwhile, and why Kurt Busch deserves to be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame as well.
Number 3.
Former Lynchburg Hillcats manager Tony Massinelli has been named the interim manager of the Baltimore Orioles. We bring that up most notably because he's the last skipper to lead the team, Lynchburg Hillcats, to a Carolina League championship during the 2017 season. Here's the irony of it. When they won the championship, they defeated, can you take a guess, Trey, who might be in the Carolina League that would make it ironic?
The Salem Red Sox?
No, Frederick Keys.
Oh.
Baltimore Orioles affiliate.
Got
and
it,
now
yeah.
he is managing the Orioles. But it's really cool to see that. And of course, Hurricane Irma canceled the one against Down East a few years ago as well when they were both co-champions. But kind of a cool point of pride for the Lynchburg Hillcats, who have had a number of great accolades themselves. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
can I just throw this out there? Ryan Clark, Robert Griffin III are in some kind of social media feud based on comments that were made. I'm sure you'll
We
get
need
to this
Brian
tomorrow.
Nolan to settle the beef.
Brian Nolan.
Reach out to your boy RC again.
Yes, please do.
Allegedly.
Brian.
He may or allegedly have his allegedly.
Can I just throw this in there? When I hear Ryan Clark, Robert Griffin III, and then the man who just interjected today, Emmanuel Acho, who just has to like jump in on this,
Oh, that's the worst.
why am I not surprised? Like, you know, if you hang around the dumpster long enough, or you hang around trashy people long enough, why do you get shocked that you come out smelling like trash? Just saying. And when you're part of that camp, Clark, Griffin, Acho, to me, they're kind of the same when it comes to the way they present and generate content. When there's drama that all of a sudden pops in there, who in the world is actually surprised? Speaking of drama, by the way,
Number 1.
according to a new piece from the New York Times and The Athletic, the NFL Films crew were set to produce Hard Knocks until Jordan Hudson demanded editorial control and pulled the plug on the project at UNC. Look, I'll just say this out there. We've mentioned this before, but paging Parks PR. Paging Parks PR, Karita Parks. Look, Jordan Hudson is smarter than people give her credit for. But from Bill Belichick's raw business standpoint of how to present the program and give it the proper attention, having the more qualified media people to handle a situation like this could have been a much more beneficial move. I think from personal relationship, I don't care about Belichick and Hudson. I think Hudson is smarter than people are giving her credit for, but having someone else involved that can navigate the landscape of college athletics, particularly a northerner in New England, which Jordan Hudson is, coming to a totally different environment in Chapel Hill. Having someone familiar with that scene, how to navigate it, could have done infinitely more to boost the brand and minimize this type of drama. Meanwhile, when we return, we'll get the perspective of a Carolina fan, actually on high school sports, Ben Cates of NewsAdvance.com. Plus, we'll go from NASCAR to tennis because we love making those awkward transitions. Chris Clary, author and tennis reporter. 5:45 today here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Subaru. Love to drive? Then you'll love the all-new 2025 Subaru Wilderness family. These cars are built for adventure with symmetrical all-wheel drive, rugged capability, and legendary Subaru reliability. These stylish vehicles are ready for anything. Plus, every new Subaru we sell comes with an exclusive Terry Promise, a lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit us on Forest Road in Lynchburg or browse our inventory online 24/7 at terrysubaru.com. Terry Subaru. You'll love our cars.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Hi, I'm Robert O'Brien with Lynchburg Ready Mix. At age 7, our son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Our world changed instantly. We had to monitor blood sugar, count carbs prior to every meal. It was overwhelming. Thankfully, groups like Tide provide support when your world changes. Their programs and resources help people with type 1 diabetes live their best life. So please join Lynchburg Ready Mix at the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for Tide so individuals like our son can still live an awesome life.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
Join the Lynchburg Hillcats at Bank of the James Stadium this summer for any of your favorite nightly promotions. New this year are Senior Sluggers Tuesdays, where members of the Silver Sluggers Club get in free, and College Pride Night, where those wearing college apparel receive a discounted ticket on Wednesdays. As always, we'll have Thirsty Thursdays and giveaways and fireworks on the weekend, and free admission for Kids Club members on Sunday. Get your tickets today at lynchburg-hillcats.com.
Put some fun into your lunch or dinner. Come to Kodo Japanese for the show with fun hibachi-style Japanese prepared in front of you. Looking for calmer fun? Kodo Japanese serves Lynchburg's most delicious sushi, including the famed Vol crab rolls, plus drinks including specials on mimosas for brunch every Saturday and Sunday from noon to 3. Speaking of fun, everyone gets a free birthday dinner at Kodo. So put the fun into your meal at Kodo Japanese, Wards Road in Lynchburg.
Experience, reputation, growth. These are what make Brownstone Properties the area's most trusted property management company. With the recent addition of 15 new communities at Smith Mountain Lake, we have expanded our HOA portfolio to over 80 communities across the region. Combine these with over 2,500 residential units, and it's easy to see why our reputation and business continue to grow. Let our experience work for you. Visit us today at brownstoneproperties.com or 3720 Old Forest Road in Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Yes, we are making it rain savings at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Enter the promo code DOLL at checkout, DOLL at checkout, now through the end of May for 30% off the list price of every single item. I don't know if we quite have the Rise Up climbing experiences just yet, but they are coming soon if they're not there already.
Probably, hopefully tomorrow morning.
Wonderful. Kodo Japanese Barbecue, or Kodo Japanese Steakhouse.
The only negative of when I work your show, and this is working Inside Baseball before I get Ben on here, is I lose an hour of work time to do your show. So it makes, I got to fit things in less time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate
That's
reality.
the beauty of a small business.
It is. And we got
support that by going to Insane Radio Deals and use promo code DOLL. All right,
for
there we go.
30% off the list price of every single item. So you mentioned losing time. Speaking of losses, by the way, Ben Cates, newsadvance.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. Yesterday, the undefeated season for the Jefferson Forest baseball team came to an end as Brookville spoiled senior day for JF and handed the Cavaliers their first loss of the season. Is it is it a cause for concern, Ben, as we're glad to have you back in the Fast Lane? Or, if anything, does it help take a little bit of the pressure off the Cavaliers as they look to bounce back tonight against LCA, but more importantly, make sure they're in top form for regionals coming up?
Thanks for having me, Ed. Yeah, probably not cause for alarm. I don't think. Brookville and JF have, as most people know, just have such an intense rivalry, and it has extended to the baseball field years and years. And so Brookville this year, it's an interesting Brookville team. I mean, they're most likely going to get in the playoffs, but it's been a struggle. And so. But at the same time, they played some teams tough, and so last night, just kind of a remarkable performance to silence the JF Bats and to get a 1-0 win. Definitely the signature win for Brookville of the season.
You've seen rivalries before: Glass Heritage, Brookville JF, other rivalries mixed in the region as well. I could go on for an eternity about the various rivalries. How beneficial to a rivalry is it? I mean, JF, they've been so dominant in spring sports. You look back even at football, they had a convincing victory over Brookville. That might be different this coming year. We'll have to find out later. But you look at it, JF has been so skilled and dominant in all these sports. JF Brookville is one of the staple rivalries. How beneficial to a rivalry is it when you get something like this where Brookville, maybe not having the year JF is, hardly anyone is, 18-1 now are the Cavaliers, but yet you can spoil that, much like we saw earlier this year with, Glass spoiling Heritage's great football season.
Yeah, great for the rivalry, I think. And I realize that when I say that, there are few people who are kind of on both sides, who like maybe neutral observers and just love high school sports in the area. Most of the time, if you're a fan, you're entrenched on one side or the other. But yeah, I think just as a rivalry standpoint, I mean, I remember years going back where Brookville had some really, really, really good teams, some state teams, and JF had the same, and boy, they really went at it. And so last night, really good to see. And I don't think that JF, we were talking about cause for concern. I think this is a team that is built still for a super lengthy playoff run. When you get that first loss, you're never happy to get it, especially this late in the season. You want that undefeated record, I'm sure, but it's most likely going to be a good loss for those guys to learn from.
Yeah, that's one of the key things is you get a reset moment. It's not so soon toward the postseason where it could deflate your confidence. And we've seen that before, and I'd imagine you've seen this as well. Sometimes being undefeated in the postseason, and again, seeing this across all sports, carries a different kind of pressure versus even just one loss. It can help kind of relax things and give you an idea of also how to bounce back from adverse situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen a lot of teams, especially in spring, just because spring is such a beast and there's so many teams playing in so many different sports, where if you're undefeated going into the playoffs, you can very easily get upset, even by like a bottom seed. We've seen that before. And so, because you get in that situation, you just don't know what to do a lot of times. And so when you've been through those kind of hard fought games, you kind of, it helps your confidence, and you have the ability to know what's going on in a certain situation to try to pull out the win.
Ben Cates of newsadvance.com. He's at Ben Cates8 on Twitter and hanging out with us today in the fast lane. Doesn't get any easier though for JF. They get LCA in baseball. Does that matchup live up to the billing and hype?
It was really, really, really good matchup the first time. And I think that was a 1-0 game as well. It was really, really good pitching matchup. And it lives up to it. These are two teams who are going to make some postseason noise. And so you want to be playing the best teams you can this time of year to prepare you for next week when regions start.
Ben Cates8, Twitter, newsadvance.com. He's hanging out with us today in the fast lane. Ben, Eddie Reneska picked up career win number 200 for EC Glass boys lacrosse yesterday with the Hilltoppers victory at Blacksburg last night. Kind of crept up on you how many victories he's brought. How much of this is impressive getting to 200, especially for a program that, literally he's basically built this thing from scratch.
Yeah, and you got to think there are some years, especially early on, where lacrosse maybe wasn't playing as many games as, say, baseball, softball. You might get 14, 15 games a year. And so to do that in that amount of time, Eddie has been the head coach since 2011. And so to get to 200 when you're only playing 12, 13 games a year sometimes is pretty remarkable. And that program has just done really, really well over the years with bringing up lacrosse players through the ranks and through the youth programs. And, it's spread to places like VES and to JF now as well, as far as that really tough level of play. And so, it's good to see that kind of competition in lacrosse going on. And I know what Eddie has done at Glass has been, remarkable, getting a state title and being in, I think, 4 or 5 state title games and numerous region championships. So it's been, remarkable what he's done.
Ben, how much of this is also the fact that you mentioned the youth lacrosse element? Eddie Reneska seems like he's got the right personality to handle building something like that from the ground up when there was not the proof of concept when he took over. You have a lot of strong-willed parents in every sport, but especially at the youth level and especially in a sport like lacrosse. And Eddie tackled that challenge head on and has now been able to have his fingerprints on the scene of lacrosse from the youth level all the way up to his program at EC Glass.
Yeah, especially when you think about, building a lacrosse program in a state where lacrosse was never really popular back in the day, and so for it to rise to that level to where you're state contenders a lot of years is pretty good to see. You think about how tough lacrosse is in other states, just in neighboring Maryland or something. And, we hadn't had that here in at least in Central Virginia before Glass and, VES, all those guys started their programs. And so you've had a lot of people who have really been influential in helping that sport rise in the state and in Central Virginia. So interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's different contributions, but he and Steve Kudelka at the University of Lynchburg are probably the two that come the most notably to mind, just given their continual sustained success and what they've been able to accomplish. Accomplished today, an interview with Ben Cates. Ben, great to speak with you. Thank you very much for the time. It's always good when we can catch up, and we look forward to speaking again soon.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate you guys.
Indeed, Ben Cates with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, we'll shift over, different kind of country club sport, if you will, tennis. Roland Garros. We'll discuss that in Rafael Nadal's career with Christopher Clary, author and writer, next in the Fast Lane.
At Easy Mobility Solutions, we're proud to support the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for the Type 1 diabetes experience. For over a decade, Easy Mobility Solutions has helped individuals rediscover their freedom through our proven process. Evaluate, educate, empower. Whether it's wheelchairs, stair lifts, platform lifts, or home accessibility modifications, we're here to make mobility easy. Join Easy Mobility Solutions on race day and support the Type 1 diabetes experience. Register at tide.org. That's T1,
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Hi, I'm Robert O'Brien with Lynchburg Ready Mix. At age 7, our son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Our world changed instantly. We had to monitor blood sugar, count carbs prior to every meal. It was overwhelming. Thankfully, groups like Tide provide support when your world changes. Their programs and resources help people with type 1 diabetes live their best life. So please join Lynchburg Ready Mix at the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk for Tide, so individuals like our son can still live an awesome life.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting, windows that are impossible to open and close, and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
When food is made with love, it's made from the heart. Our food at JD's Cafe is made with love. Hi, I'm JD. Come experience Lynchburg's best Southern comfort food. Our baby back ribs fall off the bone after being slightly smoked and marinated in our homemade sauce. They're great for family meals or large gatherings. That's also the time to try our weekly specials like Philly cheese fries. Just a cheesesteak except over fries. Experience the love. JD's Cafe, Boonesboro Shopping Center in Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So we've got all sorts of angles looking ahead to all the action that we don't normally cover in football and college basketball season. That, of course, softball, baseball, lacrosse. Roland Garros begins next week. I'm a tennis nerd myself, as you know, here in the Fast Lane. So to start looking ahead to that, somebody who has written probably the two most definitive biographies to date. I don't think there's one on Novak Djokovic just yet, but he's got one on Rafael Nadal that's just out called The Warrior. Before that, it was The Master on Roger Federer. And now, of course, we get ready to discuss The Warrior about not only Rafael Nadal, but the fact that he is the king of clay. I saw the graphic the other day, by the way, which cracked my wife and me up when we were watching the Alcaraz Center Rome Open match, the Duke of Dirt for Carlos Alcaraz, which maybe that's the appropriate new nickname, is it, Chris?
I heard that. I like that.
I know. I like it as well. Christopher Clary, by the way, with us here in the Fast Lane. He's the author of both of those books. Christopher, before we start looking ahead to the next generation of tennis and what to expect, You've written now 2 biographies on 2 of the 3 greatest players in men's tennis, the 2 that have retired officially, at least, with Nadal and Federer. Compare and contrast. I know that's kind of the equivalent of talk about, which is almost frowned upon in media, but compare and contrast. How similar or different was the process of writing this book, The Warrior about Rafael Nadal, versus The Master about Roger Federer?
Well, that's a great question, Ed. It's great to be with you again. I remember us doing this when the Master came out, and I appreciate the opportunity. But it was very different, and honestly, it was very different by design because I didn't want to, for the reader's sake and for my own sake, I didn't want to repeat myself and write basically a book and just change the names and change the color of the court and go on. I wanted to try to do it differently and sort of challenge myself and give people hopefully something fresh to read and a fresh perspective. And the way I tried to do that was, you cannot separate Nadal and 14 French Opens. It's just a phenomenal thing. One of the great records in sports. There have been a lot of them in tennis, and men's tennis and women's tennis as well in the last 10 to 15 years. But that one to me is the most mind-blowing, honestly. And I felt that there should be a book about it. And I felt like in order to do that book properly, you need to really understand what came before and what the place meant and how Rafa developed the skills translated so well to that. He is much more, as you know, than a clay court player. He is 2-time U.S., he's 2-time Wimbledon champion, 2-time Australian Open champion, 4-time U.S. Open champion. So he's won the other ones, but he's won 14 French Opens. So this was an attempt in this book to get deep on Rafa and his whole career, but above all, his clay court career, and go deep on the Roland Garros French Open and the place and the surface. So that was why it was a very different experience to write about them. And I also would say just quickly that I think the mentality of writing about Roger, I wrote about this in the beginning of the book. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yet, Ed, but I talk about the fact that when you write about Federer, you kind of want it to be smooth and sort of kind of seamless and have it all kind of flow state. With Rafa, I felt like you kind of wanted it to be hard. You wanted it to kind of come hard, and you had to fight for the words a little bit, fight for the structure, and it's okay because that's what Rafa likes, and that's how Rafa thrives. So there was a little bit of mindset as well, and I did try to get into routines and kind of making it hard on myself because I think that was the right sort of mood to write this book in.
Christopher Clarey with us here in the Fast Lane. He's got the book out now, The Warrior about Rafael Nadal, in particular his relationship with Roland Garros, and the action qualifiers are going on now, but it really gets underway officially with the main draws the beginning of next week, Memorial Day, ironically the same day as the Memorial Day 10K for type 1 diabetes. But you mentioned, Federer versus Nadal. You wrote about Federer in your other book, The Master. Did you have a leg up on understanding the personality of Nadal for the Warrior because of that?
Yeah, there is a fair bit of Nadal, as there had to be in the Federer book. And they're so linked with their rivalry, and a lot of what Federer was able to achieve in his career came at the expense of Rafa at times as well. So, and he has some of his toughest defeats. 2008 Wimbledon final probably being the most, but also the 2008 French Open final when he only won 4 games against Rafa in the final was a humiliating day, and also beaten by him in Australia in 2009 in the final. So they're so linked, and the evolution of their connection is really interesting because it wasn't always easy. And as I learned more about it, as I reported this book on Rafa, I think they had some tough times early on, especially their teams, I would say, kind of a better place. And so where they ended up is pretty special for 2 super athletes like that to be so connected, have a genuine friendship and relationship that I think made the sport better, and I think generated a lot of good vibes and interest for tennis all over the world because of the way they connected, and I think that it was genuine by the end, but it wasn't a given.
Was there ever, and we're talking with Christopher Clarey, author of the book The Warrior about Rafael Nadal. He also wrote The Master about Roger Federer, so that's why we're kind of doing a little compare and contrast here in the Fast Lane. Was there ever a level of needing to gain respect from each other between Nadal and Federer, or was it pretty much born out from the beginning of their rivalry?
Well, I think you got to remember, too, that when they first came across each other, which was basically, I think they first met officially in Indian Wells. They played doubles against each other, and then I think Roger knew Rafa was going to be a talent, so he actually invited him to watch one of his matches there. And they played in Miami in singles for the first time a little bit later that season. next tournament after Indian Wells, and Rafa beat him straight sets. Roger was number one in the world. Wasn't feeling 100% physically that day, but if you watch the match, Rafa was just on fire, and you could see a lot of the things that ended up happening in the rivalry from that match. Going forward, a lot of those patterns repeated. But I think they had a language barrier at the start. Rafa didn't speak much English, and Roger definitely didn't speak much Spanish. So a lot of it at the beginning was, hard for them to communicate directly. And then, Roger had just established himself as number one, and Rafa comes along, doesn't knock him off his perch from number one, but does rock his world on clay and also on the hard courts. And I think that was tough to take in some ways for Roger. And he had to learn how to adjust to that and accept that he had a rival and somebody who was going to be there, and also a much younger player. Rafa's 5 years younger than Roger and a real prodigy. So that took some time to adjust and adapt to. And I know the losses we just talked about, the 2008 Wimbledon final, that great match, went to 5 sets at dusk at Wimbledon, and Rafa finally knocked him off his perch and beat him. That was a brutal loss for Roger. And it's hard to be close with somebody when you're feeling those intense emotions like that. But I think over time, they really did come to realize that their rivalry made their sport bigger and made sport in general bigger. And they really connected over it and realized it was good for business, for sure, for them, but also good for them to connect. And I saw them in many, many places in their career where they really intersected, and you could sense genuine respect. And of course, when Roger retired, that hugely emotional scene in London when they're side by side on the bench after playing doubles and both in tears. So, a lot of real powerful emotions at work.
It's a fascinating just dynamic, and you've covered both angles of the Federer-Nadal dynamic, writing The Master about Roger Federer and now just recently releasing The Warrior about Rafael Nadal. At the beginning of it, you mentioned it. Federer more about the balletic nature of tennis versus Nadal more of a grinder. How much did that style and that mindset mesh with him and allow him to attain probably an unmatchable level of dominance at Roland Garros?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the perfect storm. I think Rafa basically grew up on clay. I mean, he did play on hard courts too in Mallorca, where he's from, but his family, they lived in an apartment just across the street early in his life that was across from the club that he learned to play the game at, and that club was all clay, all red clay. And when you go visit the place, which I did for the book, you basically, it's covered in clay. The sidewalks, the locker rooms, everything, the green walls, it's all just got red dust on it. So you couldn't be more in touch with the surface, really, from an early age than that. And I think Rafa's game with that big topspin forehand, which created lots of clearance, was also really a big factor in him being successful and also being a lefty. But I think a thing that really matters on clay, I know you're a player, is the movement. It's so different than anything else in tennis, even though people do slide on hard courts now. The way you slide on clay, how you slide on clay, how you manage your time with the slide is so important. And it's sort of like a Canadian skating on ice, right? It's sort of like a Spaniard on clay. It's a natural fit, and Rafa had it from a very early age. And I think that did play a role because a lot of guys learn later on the tour, and they never quite have that level of comfort that he had.
It's just amazing.
Amazing competitor and amazing athlete, too, for sure.
It really is the level of competition. And one of the points you touched on early in the book is, Rafael Nadal as well. He only lost 5 total times if you count the Olympics to Djokovic, 5 ever on Roland Garros as a surface. 3 of them, ironically, to Novak Djokovic because of the 2 French Open losses. You mentioned that the not taking anybody for granted. How much did that fuel Rafael Nadal in terms of being locked into a different degree than Novak Djokovic, who, there are times where it looked like, he'd fall down a couple breaks in a set and that was it, or Roger Federer as well, where they both seem to pick their spots.
Yeah, I think Novak developed into one of the supreme competitors in any sport over time. But Rafa was kind of that way from the very beginning. That's the thing that's kind of, I think, to me remarkable, is that Rafa was not a fully formed player by any means at 18, 19 years old, but he was such a rock-solid, mature competitor at that age, and so he remained. He had a couple periods in his career where he lost his mojo, lost a bit of his belief, and that was mostly because of Djokovic and what he was able to do against him. I think about part of 2011. I think about 2015. Those are tough times for Rafa, but he had a lot of resilience and bounced back. But I just think Nadal's mentality developed with his Uncle Tony in Mallorca. Uncle Tony was his former national level player and his coach his primary coach for most of his career, just had a huge impact on him in terms of how he prepared Rafa mentally for the challenges ahead. And one of his big mantras was, you really, when you play tennis, you're going to have adversity. You're going to face difficult moments, and you shouldn't shy away from it. You should expect it, and not only expect it, but you should embrace it. And I think Rafa had the mentality to take that on board and live with that and really embody it. And Tony, to his credit, set him up really well for the kind of success that he was going to have, because he really taught him that he was going to have to respect every opponent and take each point as a separate entity, and really each point was its own little battle. And that's the way Rafa played his whole career. And that's how you get to 14. I mean, not the only reason, but it's a big reason, is that he was able to compartmentalize and not take any points off ever that I can recall.
Christopher Clarey with us here in the Fast Lane, author of 2 books, The Master about Roger Federer, The Warrior that just dropped about Rafael Nadal, and he covers tennis as well, and he's getting ready to head over to Roland Garros to look at it. So since you're heading over there, is it different now in this era of tennis that you've almost got a hard court specialist in Jannik Sinner? It's he, then Alcaraz, then a drop-off, and then a non-hard court specialist in Alcaraz, then Sinner, and then a drop-off to everybody else. And they may accrue a lot of Grand Slams, but it may be more to the lack of competition.
You know, I think it's a little too early to say that. That's how it could look. It may end up being that way. Those two may separate for a time, and they, clearly they're the only ones of that next generation who've managed to win majors so far. So, definitely they are a cut above. Sinner just coming back from his 3-month suspension after the doping issues that he had. So I also feel like those guys, Alcaraz won his first major title at the U.S. Open. He's had a lot of success on hard courts. But I think maybe clay and even grass could be his best surfaces. And Sinner also has played a lot on clay, but he has a more direct style where, more ball striker, the ball stays lower and doesn't move quite as well on clay as he does on a hard court. So I agree with that to a degree. But I think there's some guys coming up that could play a role going forward. You got guys like Jakub Menšík, young Czech player who won the Miami Open this year. You've got, Joao Fonseca, this Brazilian who's a teenager who's not had a big result in a major yet, but he's awfully talented. And a lot of people I really have a lot of confidence in think he's got something special going on. So I think you do have, and Holger Rune has had a bit of a resurgent year this year. So there are players in their age group, in their space, that could end up challenging them. But right now they are a cut above, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them, hoard all the majors this year again.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there, I'll raise my hand as well, that kind of see it as a 2-horse race and then a drop-off to everyone else. And is that drop-off more pronounced on a surface like clay and even a surface like grass, just because of the difference in reps and how a lot of these guys were brought up, comparatively speaking?
Well, I do think Alcaraz is a special talent, no question. So is Sinner, but I think Alcaraz is a spectacular player. He's a crowd pleaser, and he's also just a phenomenal athlete and acrobat. And clay really suits him because he's such a good drop shotter, and he has a good understanding of how to move on the surface. That was his first surface as well, even though he played a lot on hard courts. So clay is a natural place for him to express his game. And I think it gives him a little bit more time. And he also has a phenomenal forehand with a lot of shape to it. At times he can hit it a lot of different ways. But he really understands how to move on the surface as well. So I think he's a multiple French Open winner. I don't see him getting to 14. I don't see anybody getting to 14, but I think he's certainly going to be very, very, tough to beat on the surface. But I worry about his injuries. Eddie's had already at a young age, a lot of problems. He plays in an extreme style. He's got a lot of balls hit from extreme positions, and he's gotten hurt a lot. Nothing serious yet, but a lot of injuries that have sort of hurt him and held him back. So he's going to have to find a way to solve that issue. Rafa did, but in a different way, probably.
Most definitely, and it's chronicled in Christopher Clarey's book, The Warrior, which is out. It's an awesome read. I'm a couple chapters into it, so a little bit more to go, a lot more to go, actually, on that. And my wife is a big Nadal fan, so she might intercept the book before I even get a chance to go deeper into that. I'm kind of stashing it away at the moment, but I don't know how long that'll last. Not always a recipe for success in marriage, shall we say. Chris, a pleasure to be speaking with you today in the Fast Lane. We appreciate your time, and first of all, how many people have asked, so when's the Novak Djokovic book coming out?
That's the question I keep getting, which is great. I love that there's interest, and there might even be a curiosity about that. I'll do it, Ed, if I can find the right format. I needed to find the right format to do Nadal, so it was hopefully fresh for the readers and fresh for me. And I don't want to repeat myself and write the same kind of book on Djokovic. So if I can find the right formula and right format, that I definitely would be interested. And I got to find the right title. We got the Master, the Warrior, and I don't know, but it'll be if it happens.
Yes, the Searcher, the Gatherer.
There you go.
I'm
There
just
you go.
thinking of nicknames because Novak always seemed like he was searching for some kind of answer, or the antagonist, the protagonist. It would be something much different than the other two personality-wise. Meanwhile, the books are great. It's worth reading both of them. The Master on Roger Federer, The Warrior on Rafael Nadal, and TBD on Novak Djokovic with Christopher Clarey, who has written the first two actual books and discussing them today in the Fast Lane. Christopher, thank you for your time on that, plus a little French Open talk. We really appreciate it.
All the best to you, Ed. I appreciate your interest.
Indeed, our pleasure. Christopher Clarey with us here today in the Fast Lane, and the way to wrap it up and look at Roland Garros. We will get, by the way, for those that are curious, Friday, our guy, Drew Dinsick from the Bet the Edge network on NBC Sports and The Deep Dive, which is his daily podcast. He covers quite a bit of tennis. We will get into more the what to expect at Roland Garros angle, and is he on the same page that I'm on about it being a two-horse race at Roland Garros? Maybe you throw in a couple of wild cards at some of the others. And then for women's tennis, I don't know, just go play the lottery if you think that's the case. Maybe pull some dark horses and long shots, because there's a good chance you'll get somewhere with that. In the meantime, hopefully you'll get somewhere with us. As always, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts, Facebook Live, YouTube, VTR in Sports on the Facebook Live platform, the VTR in Sports app as well. We'll have college softball and baseball in the World Series coming up. Men's lacrosse Final Four, Stanley Cup playoffs getting underway this evening, all in the VTR and Sports app. And if you missed anything, you know where to go. So check it out 24/7, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTR and Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynch.